Hi, I'm Clara from OnlineFabricStore. Today I'm going to dye fabric with a Shibori dyeing technique that uses thread to create a pattern. The stitches act as a resist, so the dye can't penetrate certain areas of the fabric. With this method, you can basically draw with a thread to create detailed designs. So let's get started. The materials you'll need are fabric or an item of clothing, RIT dye, salt, which is optional, upholstery thread, a hand sewing needle, a spoon, a fabric marker or pencil, a measuring cup, a container for dyeing, rubber gloves, and plastic to cover your workspace, and a pot for boiling water. For best results, use a fabric made from natural fibers like cotton and pre-wash the fabric. First, draw your design on the fabric using a washable marker or pencil. The simplest pattern is straight lines, but you can create all sorts of designs with the thread. Cut a piece of thread long enough to go across the fabric. Thread the needle and knot it at one end. Then, hand sew with a running stitch along your lines. I'm spacing out the stitches about 1/4 inch, but you can sew shorter or longer stitches to get different results. Use a strong thread like upholstery thread so it doesn't break when tightened later. Repeat this until all the lines are stitched. Pull on the threads to gather the fabric tightly together and tie the ends. The tighter you pull the thread, the less the dye will be able to penetrate the stitched areas, creating a more dramatic effect. Make sure your workspace is covered with plastic or something to protect it from staining. Heat at least enough water to easily cover the fabric. Soak the fabric in warm water first so the dye will absorb better. With the water near boiling, pour it into a container. Put on rubber gloves and add the dye, shaking it first. I'm using teal RIT dye. Stir the dye bath and put in the fabric. The amount of dye you use will depend on the color you want to achieve, the amount of water you're using, and the amount of fabric. If you're dyeing cotton, rayon, or linen fabric, adding salt will help the dye absorb better. After a couple of minutes, add the salt and stir. The amount of salt I used is about the same as the amount of dye. You can move it around to allow the dye to get deeper into the fabric. Let the fabric sit for about half an hour. Rinse in warm water, then cold, until the water runs clear. Cut the thread and remove it as you rinse. Machine wash on cold and dry. With Shibori Stitch Resist, the possibilities are endless, so experiment with different designs and multiple colors to get beautiful and unique results. Thanks for watching this OFS project.